أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Islamophobia or Islamic terrorism. Internationally much talked and debated term, especially from the last many years. This term has been so variously defined and interpreted that people have failed to assign its specific meaning on which no opinion differs. This is the reason that countries and groups of people construe it according to their convenience, widely different meanings. As a result, this word, Islamophobia or Islamic terrorism, has not only given rise to widely wrong concepts but also thrown the world in the grip of violent fear. Now it threatens to tear the well woven fabrics of global society apart. Before we try to understand that why these awful words like phobia and terrorism are used with the religion of peace like Islam, it has its roots deep in the history. And if we discuss the term Islamophobia without quoting history, that would be only the tip of iceberg. America, the superpower, waged so called wars to eliminate terrorism. But the question arises whether or not America has been successful in eliminating the terrorism. Of course not. Our close scenario reveals the fact that those who waged wars against terrorism are themselves terrorists. They have reduced the order of the world to chaos. The root cause of aggravation of terrorism is the partial of the basis of countries, religion, and organizations. They conceive prejudice against one another, unfairly name their own acts as the measures to resist terrorism. Any act contrary to the interest of America is branded terrorism by it. Interestingly enough, it reserves the right to interfere in the internal affairs of a country with the help of its military power. It not only reduces the international laws and customs to chaos, but also plays ruthless havoc thereon. We have many examples of this branded terrorism of America. We can see that Israel brands the Palestinian suicide bombing as terrorism, while on the other hand, Israel persecutes the Palestinians ruthlessly, puts many innocent people to death, and forcibly occupies their land. Likewise, the Chechenia's military measures to repel the hostilities and ruthless oppressions are labeled as terrorism. But Russia is blind to its cruel barbarity and brutal acts of massacre of the Muslims in Afghanistan. But this is very unfortunate that if a Muslim is involved in the incident, the so called progressive and self professed justice loving countries readily identify the act with the Islam and label it as Islamophobia or Islamic terrorism. Although it's clear that the concept of discipline, justice, and love for human beings that we get from the Holy Quran and the acts of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is not to be found anywhere else in human history. In Islam, the rich and the poor, the superior and the inferior have all been treated equally under the same divine law. The rule of law is based on the principles of respect for humanity. Dear viewers, it's basically the media war which propagates the term Islamophobia or Islamic terrorism. And media has become successful in attaching the term terror and phobia with the Islam. In these days, if you ask any child, that what is the dress code of a terrorist, he will definitely say you that the terrorist is wearing a shalwar and he wears a topi, which is in fact the dress code of a Muslim. It's unfortunate enough that the Indian Godi media has making all its efforts to propagate and promote Islamophobia or Islamic terrorism. According to Indian Godi media, every religious Muslim is a warrior of jihad, and every madrasa or Islamic organization is the center for terrorist activities. Countries that are asking for peace today are unable to get it in actuality. They are only talking about it. Sternly, and amalgamation of peace and justice can be possible only in Islam. The Islamic approach to fundamentally different. The Quranic approach to issues of peace and order is rooted in the nation of justice. Without justice, there can be no peace possible. Under the given circumstances, it is the responsibility of the Islamic community to represent Muslims, Islam, and Jihad before the world as the meaning of peaceful action rather than an extremist actions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.